Hey, y'all, Gary here with Tennessee Stands. Hey, real quick, I just want to address some of the questions that are going on with these federal court rulings concerning the mask mandates in schools. And in particular, today, I just want to take you through, as quick as I can, the rulings in Knox County and Williamson County, specifically because there are some things and nuances being said in each of those rulings that I feel is important to point out. Shelby County, I'm not ignoring you. The simple fact is your mandate is under a completely different basis of law because it's not the school board issuing the mandate. It is your county health department. Well, actually, specifically your county health officer. So that's another deal entirely, which I will address at a later date. But for now, in terms of the school board mandates, let's look at the Knox County ruling real quick. And if you're not on our email list, make sure you go to TennesseeStands.org and please make sure that you subscribe to our email list. It's super critical. A bit biased, but I think we send out awesome weekly emails that are very informative. And so if you didn't get this week's email, go to TennesseeStands.org/commentary. TennesseeStands.org/commentary. Or you can also see the latest commentary on the homepage. But you'll see it's called The Insufferable Incompetence of U.S. District Judge Ronnie Greer. And it's commentary we released this week on this judge's opinion. But let's look at a couple of things real quick in this opinion that I think is important to point out. So first off, this judge in Knox County is interpreting the ADA in such a crazy way. And I'm just telling you now, like, Gary, what do I do? Tennessee Stands, what do I do? Don't comply. Don't comply. I'll finish that thought in a minute. All right, so here the judge notes that, and I'm going to go through this quickly. The judge notes that per the ADA, Congress says that these places of public accommodation must make modifications to existing facilities and practices, that part of compliance to provide reasonable accommodations to disabled people, in this case disabled students, is to make sure that the school is responsible to make certain physical modifications to their existing facilities. The funny part is that in this particular case, the modification that the school is responsible for making in order to comply with the ADA is your child's face. That's right. This judge is now saying since the ADA requires modifications in order to accommodate the disabled, my God, we don't need an elevator. We don't need to modify the sidewalk with a wheelchair ramp. Nope. We need to modify the face of your students in order for the school to be compliant with its expectations to modify the premise. Yes, that is actually what they're saying. Here's something else to point out. The idea that the ADA talks about a school should not, or a place of public accommodation, but I'm just going to say school for brevity's sake. The school cannot construct or cannot allow physical barriers to be in place that would prevent a disabled person from fully enjoying the premise, just like any other student. A physical barrier. Again, a wheelchair ramp, a bathroom sized appropriately to be handicap accessible, having desks that someone can pull up to with a wheelchair, physical barriers to enjoyment. This judge says he equates a physical barrier to an invisible barrier. So now the ADA, I suppose for the first time, does not only regulate physical barriers to entry, but invisible barriers to entry. And by the way, this invisible barrier, which is your breath that may or may not contain the COVID virus, this invisible barrier now presents itself as a physical barrier because the invisible barrier of your child breathing physically disallows a disabled person from being able to physically enter the building because of the invisible barrier of your child breathing. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a sitting U.S. District Federal Judge. But let's go on to some more nonsense, because I want you to see what this guy is basing his ruling off of. So there was another part of the ruling. He gave great deference to some testimony from this Dr. Yaun, Y-A-U-N, that testified based on some studies. Now, you may or may not have heard of this Duke study that studied several schools in terms of mask efficacy in schools. But they stated, according to her testimony, that the Duke study studied 1.3 million children in 14 school districts in 13 states. And according to this Duke study, they found that whenever mask wearing was in place, that only 1 out of every 3,000 students contracts COVID-19. Now, here's what this doctor did not communicate, apparently, in the court in terms of this Duke study. We're always told, right? We're the crazy conspiracy theorists, anti-vaxxers, just crazy, stupid, ignorant people, and we should follow the science. Excuse me. We should, not COVID, we should follow the science, right? This scientific study by Duke University, hear me now, go look this up, had no control group. Let me repeat that. This scientific study by Duke University had no control group, no placebo, nobody took the sugar pill. They only studied schools that wear masks. And by only studying schools that had a mask mandate in place, determined that masks work, but compared those schools to no schools that did not require masks on their students. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is what this judge, this federal judge, is saying is his reasoning for giving this ruling. Let me pull up one more thing here. Let's see, I'm looking for this. Oh yeah, check this out. This is something you need to see. I know if you've been following Tennessee stands for any length of time, there is no way that you have not heard me say, or anyone at a Tennessee stands rally, or anyone commenting on our Facebook page or any other social media apparatus, to stop complying with this unlawful nonsense. In fact, just a few months ago, we put billboards throughout the state saying, and I quote, "Your compliance is prolonging this nightmare." We have stated over and over again that our continued compliance with lawless mandates is why this continues. Well, here, this federal judge actually, as part, which by the way is completely asinine, as this is certainly not a legal basis, yet he put it in his ruling, that his reason for determining that the Knox County schools should go ahead and reinforce their mandate is right here. If you look in the underlined in red, because no parents actually withheld their children from school in protest of last year's mask mandate. And the students who came to school, well, they wore masks. This judge is actually saying, you voiced opposition. I mean, we heard you crying and making noise and being frustrated and opposing the mask mandates, but in large part, you sent your kids to school anyway in a mask. So apparently, these mask mandates are not so burdensome since you're still sending your kids to school in mask, i.e., you complied. Therefore, what's the problem? What's the big deal? This is this guy's rationale. Right or wrong, the point is your compliance is now informing a U.S. district judge that you really don't care that school boards enforce unlawful mandates because you're willing to comply with them anyway, so why not just continue complying? All right, let's go real quick to this Williamson County ruling now. I'm just going to show you the order. The Williamson County judge, the opinion was about 1/3 of the size of Knox County's opinion. He did much less judicial acrobatics to attain his court order. It's not a very brilliantly written court order, by the way, pretty matter of fact. But if you're in Williamson County, what you're getting right now from Williamson County Schools is an email being sent to you saying that the federal court has ordered that masks be worn in schools. That is a lie. And here's the court order directly from the federal court onto Williamson County. And I want to make sure you get the nuance of what's being said here. The judge granted the motion for a temporary restraining order. And he ordered that, number one, that the governor's executive order number 84 is enjoined from enforcement, which means that he's claiming that Executive Order 84, which gave parents the right to opt out of a school's mask mandate, is unconstitutional. It cannot be enforced. Okay, fine. Number two, defendants, Williamson County Board of Education and Franklin Special School District, are ordered to enforce their mask policies without exception for Executive Order 84. Let me make sure you gotta read between. You gotta really read the black and white, and you gotta take it for exactly what it says. In Knox County, when the court ordered Knox County to mandate masks, they actually did. Let me bring that back up. Let me bring up that court order. Let me show you the difference. Let me find it. All right. Here is Knox County's court order. You can see on number 3, the judge actually ordered the Knox County School Board to put the mandate in place. The Knox County School Board, by a vote of 5-4, had allowed their previous mask mandate from the prior year to expire. The school board did not reinforce a mask mandate. And here, which is egregious, by the way, because you have a federal judge breaking the boundary of state sovereignty and state authority, commandeering a locally elected board from a federal bench and demanding that they enact policy. That's crazy. But the judge literally ordered the Knox County Schools to reinstitute a mask mandate that was not previously there. So that actually did happen in Knox County. However, let's go back to Williamson County. I want you to look at this order. Number 2, defendants, Williamson County Board of Education and Franklin Special School District are ordered to enforce their mask policies without exception for Executive Order number 84. So they were not ordered to create a policy. They were not ordered to reenact a policy. In fact, they're not really ordered to continue necessarily to enforce a policy should the Board of Education decide to vote on not having a policy in place. But what this order is actually saying is, as long as there is a mask policy in place, you must enforce that mask policy without exception for Executive Order number 84. In other words, Williamson County Board of Education, if you're going to enforce a mask policy, which you currently are, you cannot allow an opt-out per the governor's Executive Order 84. But you need to understand this is a very specific order. What the court did not say is that the county Board of Education itself cannot allow for a religious exemption, or cannot allow for a medical exemption, or cannot allow for any other exemption. All this federal judge did, you need to be clear on this, because Williamson County Schools, by the way, this is the way these guys operate. This is Golden's MO. Fear and intimidation. This is what these people do. They're telling you that the federal judge ordered your child to wear a mask and that there's nothing they can do about it and everybody's got to wear a mask. That's not true. The schools are fully within their legal authority per this federal court order to still allow for religious exemptions and to still allow for medical exemptions and other exemptions that may be allowed by a vote of the Board of Education. What the judge has ordered is that they cannot allow an opt-out per the governor's executive order number 84, and that's it. That's where this federal judge's order ends. So parents in Williamson County, do not let these people, do not let Dana Osbrooks, who's general counsel for the Board of Education, do not let any other numbnut from the Board of Education in Williamson County tell you that a federal judge ordered anything in terms of your child being forced to wear a mask. The judge enjoined enforcement of the governor's executive order and demanded that the mask mandate in place not give deference to the governor's executive order. That's it. So if Williamson County Schools is going to force a mask on your child, then you make them own it. They are making your child wear a mask, and they are refusing to allow any exemptions if that's what they choose to do, not the federal judge. You got to be really clear on this. And look, I'm going to close by saying this. Well, what do I do? What if they don't let my kid come to school without a mask? You either continue to push the issue and you do not comply and you show up every day at these schools with your kid and demand that they be educated without a mask and that you make your own personal decisions. Or look, guys, pull your kids out of these god-awful schools. Homeschool, private schools, school co-ops. Check out Moms for Liberty in Williamson County and their Liberty Schools option. They're developing learning pods, and you can go to Moms for Liberty, you can go to their Facebook page, you can go to their website, and they have these new things called Liberty Schools. You should check them out. They're awesome. Parents in Williamson County and all over the state are coming together and learning how to cooperatively educate their own children. I think it's a great idea because you've got to stop bowing down to these tyrants. You just do. Guys, at some point, I know it's painful. I know it sucks. It's uncomfortable. Nobody likes it. It's god-awful dealing with the tyranny that we're dealing with right now. But at some point, you're going to have to recognize that your compliance is the only reason that this is continuing today. And the rest of us who love liberty are begging you to stop complying and fight the fight with us because we're only going to get this done together. All right, take care, guys.